Hello, world, and welcome to another voice note from France, a podcast where I look beyond the Instagram highlight reel to find out what it's really like to start a new life in another country. On today's voice note, I'll be taking you to another part of Japan to meet Keanu, a Jamaican ALT whose life was redirected to Asia following a failed job opportunity back home. We'll be looking at his work as a teacher, how he's managed to overcome issues such as loneliness, and all the other ways he's navigating one of the biggest life leaps he's ever made. So if you're interested, keep listening.
Can you tell the people how exactly you got to Japan?
Um,
And maybe a little
my
bit about your history before that led you to getting to Japan.
okay, so like you, I studied law. I've my law journey has been very complicated where there are moments where I loved it and then moments where I absolutely hated it and I said I don't want to continue it anymore. The pandemic happened and I started working at the Integrity Commission of Jamaica, which is a anti-corruption agency, and I worked as researcher and paralegal to the director of corruption prosecution. I did I think I did some good work there. I would like to think that. I loved the work that we did, but there was an opportunity internally to advance, do some more research, still using my legal knowledge, but my love for policy and stuff like that. And I applied for the job internally. I was, how to put this without, all right, so I was,
I don't know how many people from Integrity Commission will be listening to this, so
yeah.
go
So
ahead.
I got the job, and I'm putting it in quotation because I didn't actually sign anything, but the wheels were turning for me to start the position,
Yeah.
and including my then current position being advertised to basically be replacing. We were talking about transition and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And without cause or and a proper explanation, they just decided not to move forward. And it was very humiliating for me personally. It felt like a huge setback. So instead of staying angry, and I think if I had remained in the position, I would have become very angry over time, I decided to just take a leap. I had seen something about coming to Japan to teach during the pandemic, and I started the process, but things happened and it didn't work out then. And I just say, you know what? I'm not gonna stay here and look in your face and get angry every time I
And
see
get
you. So
bitter. Yeah.
I decided to leave.
Yeah.
And it's it's been a decision that I have loved ever since. I still miss the work that I did there. I miss the work that I could have done there, but at the same time, the opportunity that humiliation created, yeah, if that didn't happen, I would not be in Japan.
I can see a lot of similarities between our own stories in the sense of like just getting up and deciding like, you know what? Let me just take a leap and let me just try something. Especially when you feel like you're in a position of like, well, what else am I gonna do? You know?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, that's definitely what I feel like happened with me because I ended up in France because I was like, well, this whole pandemic thing isn't looking great. Let me at least apply so I have something to do when I graduate. It's true. It's true. But
Yeah.
that's basically what it was. I mean, did I sit here? I really think like, oh yeah, I was going to up in France. I don't know, but I said, well, I don't know if I'm gonna get that job. I don't want to be, and at least not in my family. I can't just sit home and do nothing. So
Hmm.
I need to go and like have something to do. Let me go have this. I'd applied before and I knew I could get in. So I'm like, well, this is almost, 100% sure. Let me
Yeah.
just do it. And then when it actually happened, I was like, oh, now I actually have to think about going through with this. Like this is an actual
Yeah.
possibility now, you know?
And I look back. I'm not superstitious, as you know, and I'm not
Yeah.
overly religious. So I don't typically believe in signs or whatever or fate. But I always look back on the fact that the day that they decided to withdraw that that job offer, was the day I was officially going to write to the company in Japan and say, okay, things are working out differently in Jamaica, so I'm not coming to Japan.
Ah,
And literally something stopped me and said, don't press the button to send because I had the email typed and everything. Because you know in our background we're always trained to do everything in writing and sign. So
Yeah,
get the
exactly.
letter, sign the letter, scan the letter, prepare the email. And as I was about to press send, someone called me away to do something else. And that is literally what prevented me. Well, not prevented me. That is literally what allowed me to come here because I did not press that email send.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
insane. And
that is
again,
it.
this is coming from you who, like you said, you're not a superstitious person, you're not an overly religious person. So
Yes,
I
I
think
don't
it's
believe in
actually,
sign, but that and it even now I'm still not religious, but that one moment has
Mhm.
stuck with me because life could have been very different.
Oh no, trust me, I understand, and there have been some moments in my life where I'm just like, all right, how did this happen? That had to have been a sign of something. I'm like, how did
Yeah,
that happen?
yeah, like no matter how you try and spin, they're like something that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
connect
exactly.
something, some yeah.
No, well, let me share my sign with you. It was when I had finished my second year of, being a language assistant. And
Mm,
typically when you're a language assistant in France, usually it runs from like October to about like, yeah, October 1st to April 30th, right? That's
mm,
typically your contract. And for me, I was like, well, I know I don't want to do this whole language assistant thing again. Let me go try to do this master something. So I'm applying to masters and everything. But the problem was that I would have had to leave France before I got a response. And that would have been a very difficult thing because I was like, well, I have a whole bunch of things here. I have a life in France, like, do I bring all these things back to Jamaica and shuttle it back over the Atlantic 2 times? Do I leave it here? Does it make
mm,
sense to leave it? I don't know if I'm coming back because I haven't gotten a response or anything.
mm.
So I'm sitting here worrying. Tell me why I one day just got an email telling me that my contract has been extended to end of June. Keanu, when I tell you, I never asked nobody never tell me nothing about no contract. Because the thing is, that's a thing you can ask for, but at that juncture, it hadn't even occurred to me because I was
It
like, oh,
didn't
I
occur
probably
that
would
it
have had to
wouldn't
have requested that months
yeah.
ago. We're past that. Like, we are in April. We are in April at this point. Like, yeah, about like roughly March, April at this point. So I'm like, I'm start looking at plane tickets to go back to Jamaica, but
Yeah,
I'm still
and you're
wondering.
probably thinking by this that even if you wanted to ask it too late to ask at this point and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then imagine to this day, I don't know whose grand idea it was to extend my contract. I could never tell you. I don't know. I never asked. I just one day got an email saying my contract has been extended. And I was like, huh? I was like, okay, well then, you know,
Small mercies, man. Small mercies.
small mercies. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Okay. So you moved to Japan. And
Yeah.
when you first moved, what was your experience like?
Um, my first experience, and please don't laugh at me when I say this.
Oh
My
Lord.
first, so when we landed at the airport and I looked out the window, the first thing I saw was a Pro Box. And coming from Jamaica, we know what Pro Boxes are associated. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is this?
You're everywhere.
But then again, I'm reminded that
Mhm.
this is a different place. It sounds very ridiculous, I know, but it was
Yeah.
just the panic of seeing a Pro Box. So
You're
for
just
those
thinking,
of
oh,
you
the plane
who
must have done a road trip just in the sky.
something is not right, because sorry, for those of you who don't know, in Jamaica, the Pro Boxes are typically used as taxis. Robot taxis are illegal taxis if you want. Um,
And they're
and
doing some
they are
not great things.
they're the worst drivers in the world. They're the
Exactly.
worst
Listen,
drivers in the
a
world.
proba. Who was I telling? And I said, listen to me. If I paid somebody a taxi driver in Jamaica a
And they
certain
come
amount,
with
he
a
would
Pro
drive
Box.
on the ceiling.
I'm not going in there. I literally avoid those vehicles. So when I kind of started having like a small panic attack. I'm like, what the hell is this? But then I was like, oh, I forget. Different country, probably different association with it.
Yeah. Pro
Yeah,
boxes
but
might be the family car in Japan. You never know.
no, it's actually a worker's vehicle. Like for like
Oh,
contractors, they use that's the vehicle of choice for
oh,
contractors.
okay.
Different, yeah.
I never
But
thought on that today where Pro Box was a vehicle of choice. Wow.
yeah. So that was the first experience per se when we touched down. But when we stepped out into the airport, first actual experience in Japan that would let me know that it's definitely not Jamaica is how smoothly everything operated. And God knows, you 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 learn you learn how different things can be when you're not in Jamaica because we all know public service and shout out to all public servants. You are doing your best. I know that.
Listen, they are doing
I
their best
was
in a broken
one.
system.
I
It's not their
understand
fault.
it. But God knows public service in Jamaica is very slow at the best of times, inefficient most of times. So to actually see things moving very slowly, I was in and out of the airport. We landed and I was at the front of the airport waiting to get on the bus in under 30 minutes. And it's a massive airport.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So
impressive.
when you, yeah, so when I did all of that, so went through immigration, customs, collect
Village
bags,
claim.
because I'm coming here for a long time, I had to do another process as well. And we did all that in 30 minutes. I'm a Jamaican citizen, going to Jamaica, and sometimes it takes way longer than that. I'm like,
Way, way
you
longer.
learn to appreciate that things can actually be so much more efficient, so much more better if well one if we have the resources, so that's a huge challenge, and if people just get the stick out of their asses and just get on with the job. But
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of it, unfortunately, is culture because a lot of it really
mhm,
is just Jamaica system. One, Jamaica obviously does have a broken system when it comes to public service, but then also like people are just like, well, why am I going to try and do my job efficiently and effectively if
if
ultimately
nobody else is going to do it.
nobody else is going
Mm,
to? I'm just one tiny cog in the entire system. What difference can I make?
yeah,
You know?
so honestly, that will that first experience well feeds into the biggest experience I've had so far is just Japan's whole approach to customer service. um Again, and shout out to Jamaica. I'm not bashing it too harsh. I love you same way, but we have problems. And I'm not one of those people who will shy away from it. Our customer service sucks. If you want to see proper customer service, you come to Japan, where if the train, and literally, there was huge news story a couple months ago where the train was late by 15 seconds and the company CEO went on his knees and apologized, saying, "We are sorry for making you late for work."
15 seconds.
15 seconds,
No,
the train was
no.
late by 15 seconds. Because one thing about Japan operates on a timetable. The
Mm-hmm.
train was late by 15 seconds, and the company CEO down in Tokyo went on his knees and apologized.
On
That's
his
customer
knee.
service. And you
That is
learn,
insane.
and it's just the I can't even put it in words, but yeah. So
I mean,
those that's
I mean that's hilarious. And for the listeners who are listening to this and haven't been to Jamaica or anything like that, you don't understand how bad transportation is in Jamaica to know that when you go somewhere else and actually see it working, you are in shock. Like, listen, no, Keanu, when I first came to France, I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me you publish a timetable and I
and the
can have the
timetable is
timetable. And
accurate.
when I open up the timetable and it said the bus is gonna be there at 3:15, the bus will actually be there at 3:15? Or
Mm-hmm.
if it's not necessarily that, there's a little screen that at least tells you when the bus is coming. In
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, that is unheard of. Nobody knows when the bus is coming, when it is going, when it gets there is when it gets there, when it leaves is when it leaves. And
Mm-hmm.
not to say, because absolutely, like, especially in Paris, there are like, disruptions to transportation and things. But the thing is, the disruptions are very minor when you consider the fact that I have waited 3 hours for a bus. Like, I can, oh no, there was a disruption. That means like, maybe the metro takes 5 minutes longer or 2 minutes longer or something. Or, I have to go to another station, which is like, it's a pain in the ass. But I'm like, listen, I have waited 3 hours for a bus.
Yeah.
I have had worse struggles. You know,
It's true. Yeah.
I've been through worse. And especially you're talking about I'm going on public transportation, nobody's gonna harass me. Like my pet peeve on public transportation in Paris is the fact that you have a lot of buskers who like come
Uh,
on the train itself. Like they're supposed to typically, if they're like licensed to busk, they're supposed to like stay on like the platform and actually in the station, but some of them will come on the train itself. And then all of a sudden you're there just trying to like, if you're sitting
go
in silence,
into
if you're reading, if you're listening to something, but like all of a sudden somebody's
Mhm.
like blowing a saxophone in your ear, and it's like, bro, I don't want to hear this. So I've
Oh, that never happens here. I think that's illegal here.
great. I mean, technically it's not legal for them to do that, but like they do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so technically you're supposed to be licensed in order to like even busk. That's a whole other story. But
Mhm.
yeah, people still do it because money is money, but it's annoying as
Yeah.
hell. But yeah, nobody's harassing me when I get on public transportation. I don't feel like, oh, am I gonna get abducted? Am I gonna disappear? Which again, if you're not Jamaican and you haven't taken transportation in Jamaica, that is a very real threat.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, so you moved to Japan, and then
Mhm.
obviously everything is extremely more efficient than Jamaica. Jamaica, we love you, but you've got some problems.
Hi, hi.
hmm So what was your experience when you first started teaching? Because I mean, of course, you came and you're teaching English. So what was your experience in the job itself?
All right, so I started as a substitute teacher, so it was at elementary school. And considering that Japan is a country where it's very not necessarily big geographically, but they're di every part of the country is very different. So there are parts of the country like where I am, which is basically like Northern Europe, which is snowy and forestry and everything. And then to the south is basically like Hawaii. So you have a lot of diversity. So a lot of Japanese people, to my knowledge anyway, and so I stand corrected if I'm wrong, they don't actually leave the country if they don't have to. There's a lot of things you can do in the country. So as an immigrant, I was probably one of the first non-Japanese people the
Ah,
students were ever meeting. So that's the first hurdle to kind of try to navigate. They're coming in and oh wow and whatever. You have the
where's your
students who are
country located?
eh?
Or like, where's your country located? Listen,
Where?
I've been told
Jamaica?
Jamaica's off the coast of
Jamaica,
Africa so many times.
Jamaica. So a lot of them thought I was American, which I get it. So they didn't Jamaica. Where? Jamaica wa doko desu ka? Where is Jamaica? Or again, probably their idea of foreigner is probably white. So
Yeah.
they they'll hold your hand and they will look at your hand and oh and then they will try to put their small hands in your hand and say oh big hands and whatever. So it was navigating that was of course
I want to specify for the listeners that like children were doing this to you, not
no man yeah
adults.
yeah yeah children so
I feel like this
they're
might sound
like
very weird. I'm like, it's not
sorry
like you're having this
my
experience with like
apologies
adults. These are
my
little
apologies
children who are confused.
their ages anywhere between ages I want to say 6 and oh my God 6 and 10 6 and 10
So
or sorry
very
11
young,
young
very,
young
yeah.
kids and then so we did that so a lot of time you're talking about introducing yourself they're getting to know you ooh and on those things but outside of that I'll be honest I was very nervous I was like oh God did I make a mistake coming here? Am I gonna do well at this job? But it just I just went with the flow. I what matched the energy that they gave me, and I worked with the curriculum that I was given, and I did it. I did the best I could. After 2 months as a substitute teacher, I was um given my own school. I was promoted or bumped up to teach junior high school where I've been ever since. And that was a whole again navigation because they had their own previous AT, so you have to navigating them, getting used to you. Um you will they like you because the way that you're teaching in elementary school is so much different from how you teach in junior high school. Hi guys, how are you? And the funny
Yeah.
voice and the acting and whatever. Of course, with kids being mature, they're gonna find that very condescending. So it's
Yeah.
now trying to find that right balance between being friendly but being age appropriate. And it's a constant navigation as a teacher, especially with a language barrier in place. But I've been doing it now almost 2 years, 2.5, 3 years, and I've loved it. I've really loved it. So yeah.
Well, see, you even bring up something that's pretty interesting because I wanted to find out, did you choose that age group or did they just kind of send you somewhere and you just had to make it work? Because at least for TAPIV, the program that I was on, you get to choose and I chose lycée, I chose high school or like
Mm,
upper high school rather. Oh yeah, high school because they actually have like a middle school system which is college. So I chose high school. High school and up basically because I know that like I don't have the capacity with like small children. Like I
mhm.
like small children, but I knew I wouldn't really be able to work with them.
When I was coming here, I initially chose junior high school and elementary school. I chose that because one, I was concerned, but more on the opposite end of the spectrum, where I think the older they are, they're probably set in their ways. They don't have the time. They say, why are you bothering me? We were teenagers, so we know what that was like. So I'm like, that's gonna make my job very difficult. So I didn't necessarily want that age group. In fact, when I came, I said, "Oh God, send me to the elementary school." Yes, and
Yeah.
I will do it, and the funny voices and the singing, and oh my God,
Because you're a showman, Keanu.
and then I did it. I'm a showman, you know me, so I love to perform. But it takes so much energy,
Yes.
so much energy. Like every day, I would go home knackered. I'd go home and I'd be sleeping for 4 hours just lights out. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing this. So when the choice came, I said, please send me to elementary, please send me to junior high school, please
Yeah.
send me to
So you can
junior
get a
high school.
break.
Give me a break. I like, I can't. But
Yeah.
junior high school is the right mix. Is the right mix. They're still out of that what do you call it? That young phase, but you can see that they're maturing and oh God, the best. Oh God. So this year group of third year students that are going to be graduating in April, I've taught them since they were in first year, so when they just came into junior high school. And the change that you've seen from that age to second year to third year, and I'm like, oh
Wow.
wow. Yeah, so third junior high school for me is the perfect place to be because you get to witness all of that. You get to witness all of that. I think they're more approachable in a way that doesn't necessarily takes a lot of energy. You can just be natural with them in the way that you can't necessarily be with a high school student because of course their minds are more mature. They're going to go places where professionally you can't go.
Yeah.
And then like, hey, wasting my time. And then on the elementary spectrum where I like ball, I like red, and I like blue, and my name is Boy Roy,
But
and
that may not be very
and
stimulating for
the
you.
the conversation. So like I couldn't. I love them. God knows I do, but I couldn't do that every day.
I
It
understand. I
takes.
understand. Well, that's the thing. Even you're saying, the fact that you couldn't necessarily, but again, you're a showman. So for you, it's kind of like you wanted essentially a good mixture of you can still be creative and do all of these fun things, but
Mm,
you're at least able to have somewhat of a, I don't want to say intelligent, because it's not like the elementary students are dumb, but
mm.
you can have more of a conversation, talk to them a
More
bit
of a
more.
conversation with them, give them up. And what I also wanted to do was, you know me as well. I don't like wasting time. So
Yeah,
my thing is, if you're gonna send me to work, let me work.
yeah.
I was a bit concerned, and it's not necessarily a concern that is justified, but I was a bit concerned that in elementary school I wouldn't necessarily get to be teaching the way that I wanted to. So in junior high school, I'm blessed that I actually plan the lessons myself. I plan the lessons, the activity, as long as we're meeting the targets for the curriculum, my teachers trust me to do it. I get that opportunity at junior high school. So yeah.
This is extremely fascinating to hear. Because again, I was just the language assistant. Like it wasn't my job to necessarily like meet certain goals of the curriculum and assessments
Mhm.
and planning out. I mean, like you did make lesson plans, but I mean like you're not their teacher. That's not your primary job, things
Mhm.
like that. It sounds like you had a lot more control Because at the end of the day, it's like there's a primary teacher who is in charge, and what they say goes at the end of the day. Of
No,
course,
man, it's the same. The primary teacher's in charge, but it's so they have English 3 times of the week, and I get one of the classes.
okay.
They give me so one of those classes. It's up to me how I run it. As long as we're meeting the objectives, they trust me enough to do it. That's not necessarily how every teacher has it, because there are some schools or some ALTs where the teacher just want to say, "My name is Roy, and I am a boy." My predecessor at my school did something like that, but I showed them what I could do. I showed them what I wanted to do, and over time they trusted me and they just said, "Okay, we know you're going to deliver what we need you to deliver, so run your show how you want to run your show." And I'm very grateful. I wish I could tell you the name of my school and my teachers, but I can't because of privacy concerns, but
Yes.
the greatest school in the world.
And if you did, I would have had to edit it out, and you would
Okay.
have made my job significantly harder because I am the host and the editor and the producer and everything.
Uh,
But I wanted to talk about, so you're having this wonderful time in Japan.
mhm.
You're there, you're working with these students, you're enjoying it. But I want to talk about, I don't want to call it the darker side, but the aspect of
Hey.
moving abroad. I mean, fine, the darker aspect of moving abroad, which is, you know, at the end of the day, you've moved to another country. You don't
Mm.
necessarily know anybody, you're dealing with culture shock or you're dealing with a lot of things. What has been some of the hardest aspects of this move for you?
The hardest part of the aspect would be loneliness, how to deal with that. So when I first came, so I've lived in America for some time, but the difference between America and here is of course, the language barrier. When you speak English or you speak the local language, you can navigate much more easily. I sadly don't speak Japanese well. I'm learning, but I don't. So that was a huge thing. So you're in a place where people are speaking around you all the time and you don't know what is happening. You have to be using a phone, which a lot of people are understanding and they're willing to facilitate you in that. But at the same time, it's a barrier to communication. So the language barrier is the first thing. Add to the fact that most Japanese people, just culturally, they have a mind your business kind of thing. If they don't know you, they don't want to talk to you. So it literally makes making friends very difficult. So when I lived here for the first 2 or 3 months, I didn't have any friends here. So it was just go to work when I got called as a substitute teacher and come home. And it was very depressing at times. And even when I did make friends, and did make some friends, and I've been here for a while, so I kind of got my foot a little bit more. The loneliness still sank in. So my apartment that I had before, there was only one window. It was very small, cramped, didn't have much sunlight. So when winter set in, it was hectic. So I'm coming from Jamaica, where I lived with my mother and my grandmother. My friends were A huge amount of my friends were within 5 minutes from where I lived, so
Yeah,
I
you're
could
coming
walk
to UA every single
anytime.
day.
I was
Well,
coming to
there.
university all the time, where all my friends were there. So to leave from that to come to here, where I'm just in my home house all the time, I don't know anybody. I can't talk to anybody. I can't really go and socialize even if I wanted to, because most of it is in Japanese I don't understand. Then I'm going to work where, yes, I work with English teachers, and my principals they didn't know much English, but they made a lot of effort to try to communicate with me. But 90% of everything happening around you is in a language that you don't understand. So you just felt like a sore thumb. And then add of course this factor, for those of you who aren't, well, I don't think you can see, but I'm showing the skin factor.
You're doing
Now,
exactly what I do, which is I rub the back of my
I
hand.
rub the back
Exactly.
of my hand. Yeah, the skin factor, where I'm my ex in if I met 10 people in Japan, nine people are okay because again they have a go about your business mentality. They don't care, they just walk past you. But there are one or few times where people see you and I see them crossing the road with the see my craft and I just laugh. I laugh partially because I understand I'm probably the first person
Yeah.
seeing this thing. I'm not necessarily a small person either. I'm a big person. So
You're
I
kind of a
can
commanding
appreciate.
presence, I think, when you
I'm a
walk.
big, yeah, and you know how I walk heavy and I walk chucked in, as they say in
Yeah.
Jamaica. So, I can appreciate that and I laugh it off and I understand that, okay, this might be, hey, who is this person? But at the same time, you're like, oh God, it adds to the depression sometimes. But what has helped me overcome that is finding a community of Jamaicans where I am ironically, spending more times with my student at school. So I now play table tennis, which I didn't do before. I did jiu-jitsu. I dance at the festivals that they have here.
Oh my
I go
goodness.
to
I wonder if I can post a
karaoke.
video of you dancing.
Yeah, of course you have my permission to post it. But yeah, I did all those things. So overcoming just finding things to be engaged is how I overcome it. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge.
And we're going to talk more about those challenges
When we come
after
back.
when we
All
come
right.
back.
All righty.
And we'll be back after these messages.
Yeah.
So, yes, Keanu,
Yes.
I love that you talked about loneliness and how you were able to overcome that because honestly, I think that that is going to be one of the primary struggles that people are going to have to deal with when they move abroad. And they're not necessarily going to know what to do about it. And especially depending on where you are, you know,
Hmm.
it's going to feel impossible to combat that. I mean, in my experience, at least, I didn't feel lonely until very late in my time in France, I think. I didn't feel lonely until I moved to Paris, basically.
Hmm.
So, to give the listeners, I guess, a bit of background on like, my time here, I was working in Normandy. So I was living in a small town in Normandy. And then for my first year as a language assistant, and then I moved to Paris. And when I was living in Normandy, and this was the thing I didn't really put together until I moved to Paris and I was like, oh my God, I'm alone. When I was living in Normandy, I was never really alone, right? So, or at least I always had somebody around. Like Keanu, you know me. It's like I can have people around me and things, but I'm not necessarily like a friendly type of person.
Hmm.
I like to
Hmm.
be alone, have my own space, and even
You're
now,
you're 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 okay. That's oh God, that's the thing. So you and I are the same in that way because I have a lot of friends. I love my friends, but I was okay with being alone.
yes,
I'm I have siblings, but I'm the only child from my mother, so I was used to it. My mom was at university when I was younger, so I got in the habit of being by myself or being okay with being by myself. That all changed when I came here, where in Jamaica it was a choice to be
yes,
alone versus here it wasn't, you just had to be alone because you didn't know anybody, nobody knew you, don't speak the language, don't know where to go, um, hard to make friends, and it's a total different kettle of fish. Total
exactly.
different kettle of fish. And I don't think, you always hear people go, oh, go overseas, man, go try your hand or whatever. I don't think people talk about that enough because I was totally unprepared for it. I was totally unprepared for it. We have a friend here who also lives in Japan, and she speaks the language, so it's much more easy for her to navigate. But I don't think she could have prepared. She didn't necessarily prepare me for that. That was something I had to be mindful of because yeah, and the worst part is it creeps in. You don't notice that you're starting to feel that way, but
Yeah,
it just does until it takes over. And the irony is that, and I had the same situation where you're living in Paris. I'm living in Sapporo, which is the fifth largest city in Japan. But it's ironic how you're living around so many people,
and you
yet you're
feel so
still
lonely.
lonely. you still feel lonely. It is the weirdest thing.
It is
It
the
is the
weirdest thing. You're
weirdest
right.
thing.
Because when I was living in a small town where I was the only black person,
Mm-hmm.
Canada, when I tell you I was only ever alone by choice. Because for me at least, the first thing is that I had a roommate. I had a roommate who was also a language assistant. So you already have a built-in friend, It's like we have to
You
spend
hope
time together.
anything.
Yeah. It's like we
Mm-hmm.
have to spend time together and we are the only people who understand what the other is going through. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I love her. I adore her. I went to visit her in her country. Like, listen, I'm forever thankful to this girl. But like, you have a built-in friend. And then at the time there was also I mean he's still there. There was a university student who he was working as a similar-ish position where he was like an assistant, teaching assistant in a sense, and he
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit younger than me, but still in his 20s and things, and we were friends. I don't know if he'll listen to this, but you know, but
Mm-hmm.
he was there as well, and there was somebody else who was like she was American, and her city in the US had like a connection with our town in Normandy, and it was a thing. So she
Interesting.
living there as well. So like the point is, and then on top of that, I had made friends who were also language assistants, but they were in another part of Normandy, and I would like
Mm-hmm.
travel to this other place because I was living in a tiny town. This was the big city. So I could go over there and go stay and go visit them and things. So like I never felt like I'm alone or I don't have anybody. Like if it's nothing else, the only time I would say I felt lonely was like during the school holidays when it was like let's say it
Mm-hmm.
was Christmas
Mm-hmm.
and my roommate is gone. She's gone back to her home, to spend it and things. And then you kind of walking around and you're like, I really miss her, because it's been 2 weeks, I really miss her,
Mm-hmm.
things
Oh
like
God.
that.
I
So
know
stuff
that
like
when
that.
I used to, well, I still do. I hate the holidays here because it's me after 1 week I'm bored. I have nothing to do. Just send me back to work
Same here.
already. But
Same here. I'm
it's
the exact
because
same way.
it just means that I have nothing to do. I'm
I'm just sitting
inside
around doing nothing.
and ooh, no.
Yeah, and I don't like feeling like just unproductive, like
Yes,
I'm not doing
no.
anything. So I
Yeah.
completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing because especially like holidays when you're a language assistant are so long and France has so many holidays. If they have a holiday, I'm serious, no, Keanu, I think it's like every 7 weeks or something, there's a 2 week holiday. I'm not joking.
We had a holiday, I think, last week called Sports Day. Japan has it beat. We have Sports Day, we have Old People's Day, we have Sea Day, we have Mountain Day, we have Constitution Day. Now, mind you, sometimes I love those holidays because I work hard and I need the rest.
Yes.
But we have holidays for so many things. But it's really the what I call it. Oh God, not the interregnum. Forgive me, my legal Latin is coming out. Oh
Uh-huh.
God. That's that space between this old school year and the new school year. I hate that because
Yeah.
like it's not that me having nothing to do, nowhere to go. I can't because of my additional responsibilities in my company. I can't necessarily go on a long vacation because I have to be available.
Yes.
So it just ooh, yeah.
And the thing is too, you haven't been back to Jamaica. Like
No,
since you've
no.
been here, you haven't gone back.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I'm torn because on the one hand, I haven't spent Christmas with my family in 3 years. And then I
Mm.
realized I'm going to stop calling them because whenever I call them just
Mm.
walk off. Like I
Um,
will video call and be like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And then we'll put on the phone, I'll walk off. And I'm like, "I called to be with you. Where are you going?"
yeah.
So I just stopped calling them now. I just send them some pictures and I just stop calling them. Come here, so clearly talking to you is pointless.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you know,
it's rough. And again, I wasn't necessarily big on the Christmas holidays back in Jamaica, but
yeah.
it's just not being with my mother and my grandmother
Yeah.
and my family. It's very hard for me. But like I said, I found a little community here, and we try to replicate what our Christmas would be, or not necessarily replicate, but create our own traditions here.
Hmm.
So we have an annual Christmas dinner where we do Secret Santa. And what else? So every now and last week we had dinner. So, oh God, I eat, I ate, forgive me. My students would say, Keanu Sensei. I'm sorry. I ate curry chicken and soup and jerk chicken and roast beef and rice and peas and whatever. I'm not big on the cooking, so I don't really do those things myself. But it was the first, well, not the first time. It was just it brought back a lot of memories because like, oh God. Oh God. Oh yeah.
Oh, trust
Yeah.
me,
But
you don't realize what you have until it's gone. I promise you.
yeah.
Listen, curry goats has never tasted so sweet, and I love curry
I
goats. So
I, I I talk to my grandmother all the time, and I always say that it's one thing I miss the most. When I don't know where to find it and I don't know how to cook it, even if I did, so I can never have it. And like she has a way of cooking chicken livers,
yeah,
livers, and the way she does it, oh my God! And if I would fly back to Jamaica just to eat that. But yeah,
that is
so the
insane. But tell me more about the Jamaican community where you are, because when I was speaking to somebody else, a friend who also lives in Japan. I love how I'm hiding her up. It's Michaela.
yeah,
Um,
so like we don't know who she is.
yeah, Michaela. She's on this podcast. Like she
Yeah.
has two whole episodes. So yeah, it's Michaela.
Yeah.
But tell me more about the Jamaican community here, because that wasn't really a part that came up in her story. Maybe because she's in another parts of Japan. But tell me
Mm.
about what that's been like for you.
So I came here just kind of navigating the place. Um, so for your listeners, sorry, when I was coming to Japan, I figured that it would be very difficult to find someone to who knows how to cut black hair. And so in anticipation of that, I locked my hair. But then I only completed the habit journey because I did not learn how to lock it myself. I'm like, oh God,
This is
how am I
hilarious.
gonna do how am I gonna do my hair?
Which is so
So
funny because the other person has locks. So the Michaela has locks. You could
she
ask
has a
her.
lock, but
Yeah.
she lives very, very far away. So it's not like I could hop on a train and go to her and have her do my hair.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh crap. Yeah, this is not gonna work out. And I was just tempted to cut it all off. On one of my substituting assignments. So I met another teacher who was telling me that, oh, so and so, she's also from Jamaica and she does hair. And
Oh,
then and that's literally how I met my friend. And then she connected me with other ALTs from Jamaica who came that same year, but they came in they came in April, so they got to meet each other. I came in
uh,
August, so I didn't meet them. So I didn't do initial training with them. I didn't get to meet them. So I was only by myself in my little bubble. And then because of my hair, I met one, and then it became meeting two and three. And as new Jamaicans come to Sapporo, I kind of take it on to myself to kind of expand the group a little bit. So we don't feel lonely, and we just become a little family. We become a little family. We have our dinners. We have Christmas dinner. So for my birthday, we went to a buffet and we had fun. We went to a club. We did 6 hours of karaoke. We just do those things, try to be together as much as we can outside of work to just enjoy ourselves. Um, I've been on vacation to Osaka and Kobe. We want to go overseas for our next vacation, but we'll see how the budget works out for that. But
well, that's the
it's
thing because I was about to say, like, I don't know if I've heard you going to anywhere else. You've just been in Japan. I don't know if you've been able to
yeah,
travel.
I've been one well, time is one thing, and then but I'm definitely thinking of going to either South Korea or Thailand in April. Yeah, I think
Ooh.
I was supposed to go last year. It didn't work out, but I'm definitely going next April. Yeah.
That is so funny because here I am trying to plan my trip to Japan. Listen,
Mhm.
one of the things that I really resented about everything that had happened to me over the past year was the fact that, like, I haven't been able to travel in the ways that I love because I live in Europe, and when you get a Schengen visa, you basically can go, well, not all of Europe, because not everywhere is in the
Also
Schengen
Europe.
zone, but you can go
Mm-hmm.
most of Europe. You have a good chunk of Europe that you can go
Well,
to.
you've seen a lot, so
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
impressive.
I mean, I know people have seen more. I feel like I've seen a lot. I went to 5 countries, if you count the Vatican, 6 countries. Um, if you count the fact that I've had to drive through Belgium in order to get to some of these places, you can call that 7 countries, even though
Mm-hmm.
Brussels is nasty. Anyways, sorry, Brussels. Um, no, it really, listen, every time I drive through it, I am just like, why this place just looks so why?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that if I ever make an actual effort to go to Belgium and do something, I find somewhere nice to go. Different story. But you know,
Right.
I was so used to like this ease of travel, and when you're a language assistant, I mean, you're not making much money as a language assistant, but like essentially you're not really thinking about necessarily saving or anything like that. So, you just pay your bills and everything, and you say, all right, the rest of it is for me. Let me just go to Spain, like, feel something nice. Let me just go to Italy. Like you have that, and because you have just an obnoxious amount of holidays, you actually have the time to
To
do
find
that,
something.
you
You
know?
know, you touch on something a while ago, inadvertently, but it's a huge thing I would like to impart on people who are listening, who are coming, especially coming overseas as a language assistant. They don't necessarily make a lot of money, but the money that you do have, I caveat this by saying you must always be financially responsible. That is one, that is first and foremost. But more than that, if you can spend the money by yourself, you only live once, spend the money on things that bring you joy. I used to watch, well, I still watch money a lot. And that was just how I raised. It's intrinsically a part of who I am. But I just learned that, okay, I'm living here, I might as well be comfortable. I might as well be happy. And so I've become more comfortable on spending money on things that I like, because guess what? To copy to copy a famous company with their slogan, I am worth it. I am worth it. Yeah.
You're
But
listen to me. I don't want people thinking I'm promoting certain brands, so end it there.
yeah, yeah, that's why I don't call any names. But yeah.
You are
I
indeed
work
worth it.
hard. I've earned it. I can spend on myself, especially when it comes to spending on myself to make me feel happy and make me feel safe. So my biggest investments, I used to live in this, like I said, my tiny apartment that my company arranged. Kudos to them. You housed me for 2 years, but the whole setup was not conducive for happy living, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I had to just say, okay, I'm taking a leap and moving out, finding my own place, getting more sunlight, stuff like that. It was a shit ton of money, the process. I cry sometimes when I think about how much money I had to spend just to do this process. And I don't actually tell my mother how much it costs, because she'll be like, are you out of your mind?
Oh no,
But
Kiana, I just moved into my new apartment, and when I tell you, after I pay for everything, I'm broke. Like I
yeah, like,
broke. I get it.
yeah,
I never saw my paycheck disappear so quickly.
but like I'm here and I'm like, I like this. Like the fact that you're seeing me now with sunlight.
Yes,
Like I've
exactly.
known that oh God, it's funny how as we get older, the simple
Yes.
things bring such a smile to your face, so like sunlight and breeze and wind.
Oh no, trust
Shit.
me. I went to the beach. That's a whole other story I can't tell you about, but I ended up going to the beach a few weeks ago, and honestly, I almost cried. And I think a lot of people, when they saw me and they saw me not necessarily getting emotional, but they're like, okay, Daniel's having a moment, and I was like, oh, you don't understand what this
Like
feels like
just
for
to
me,
put your,
you know?
your foot in the sun, I feel the water on your feet. And
Exactly.
I remember the first time I went to a river. I know me love
Oh,
river. The first time I went to a river, you say, oh my God. And literally the tears that come down my face, and I say, oh God.
exactly. No, trust me, if I felt like I was in a place where I could cry at the beach around, I was with coworkers. If I felt like I could cry, I probably would have wet. So I completely understand you.
Unfortunately, we'll have to pause Keanu's story here for this week. which is a shame because we're actually getting to one of my favorite parts. Thank you again, Keanu, for sharing your story, and I hope that you, the listeners, enjoyed and will join us next week for part 2. If you've been enjoying the episode so far, let me know by dropping a like or a comment and subscribing on your preferred podcasting platform. I'm your host, Danielle Brown. Thank you for listening.